the difference between call, apply and bind method is that the bind method will not execute the function immediately, but just binds, that means fixes the specific object for that function as this keyword. That means it stores the reference of this specified object in that function memory, so that next time when you call that function, automatically the specified object will be supplied as this keyword in that function. See, in case of call and apply methods, the function executes immediately and also applies the specified object as this keyword. But in case of bind, instead of executing that function immediately, it just binds, that means supplies this keyword object to the specified function, but it will create a new function so that you can receive the new function reference into a new variable and call that function later. So, as this point suggests us, whenever you want to execute the function later but not immediately, then you will use this bind. So, if you want to execute the function immediately, then use call or apply. But when you want to execute the function later, then you will use the bind method. And already I told the difference between apply and call in the previous lecture, so I am not repeating that again. So for example, there is a function here, and we are accessing that function here and specify bind and then your object which you want to supply for this keyword. So it creates a new function that contains reference to this specified object but will not execute the function immediately, and at the same time the existing function will not be changed. So if you call this function directly, the specified this keyword object will not be supplied, because even though we have called bind method, there is no changes in the existing function. It only creates a new function that contains reference to this specified object. So if you call this new function, then this specified object will be supplied as this keyword in this function. So overall, the bind method creates a new function along with the reference of this keyword object that is mentioned here, so that you can explicitly and manually invoke that new function later whenever required. So in the previous example, we have two objects like student1 and student2, and we have a function called calculate total marks, and we are invoking that function by using apply method. Let's redo the same by using bind method. So let me copy the code of this. Let's create a file that is bind.js. Let's paste the same code. So there is no changes here. We have two objects, that is student1 and student2. And we have a function. But instead of executing that function by using apply, let's try using bind. In this case, we have to supply only the object for this keyword, but we should not supply the arguments like this. So it creates a new function and binds the specified object, that is student1, as this keyword of that function. So later, somewhere else, we have to invoke that function. So in this case, the bind method creates a new function, right? So we can store that function reference in a variable. Let's say, for example, student1 calculate. Here, the variable called student1 calculate stores the reference of the newly created function that is created by the bind method. So as of now, if you call the calculate total marks function directly like this, in this case, this keyword has no access to either student1 or student2. But In case if you call the same function through student1 calculate, then the same code executes, but this time this keyword in this function has access to the student1 object. So in this line, we need not explicitly pass the reference of the student1 as we have done the same earlier. But we can supply the values for the subject 1, 2, 3 parameters. Let's say for example, I am trying to supply 60, 70 and 80. Just like how do you call a normal function. And let's repeat the same syntax for the second student. So student2 calculate equal to bind of student2. So it creates a new function again and binds the reference of student1 as this keyword in that function. And we have to call that function on the next line. So in the first case, this keyword refers to the student1, and in the second case, this keyword refers to the student2. So every time when you call the bind method, it creates a new function and binds the specified object as this keyword in that function. But in both cases, the function body, that means the actual code, is the same. Only the reference that is stored in this keyword is being different here. So let us run this code. So we are getting the output as expected. In the first case, we are calling the function with this keyword refers to student1. And in the second case, we are executing the same function, but this time this keyword refers to student2 object. So in the real world applications, whenever you don't want to execute the function immediately, but you want to bind an object as this keyword for that function, in that case only use the bind. But alternatively, in case if you want to execute the function immediately but not later, then either use the call or apply methods. So totally we have 3 ways to call the function and supply your own object as this keyword, that is call, apply and bind.